we're back. Now we've got a lot of comic books that have a lot of mythology in them.
Mm-hmm.
These two particular, Amazonian by nature, we're talking Wonder Woman, we're talking Red Hood and the Outlaws, and we're talking something very sinister with Detective Comics.
Mm-hmm. And 3 comics with some very intimidating women.
Yes,
in them.
exactly. Yes. Wonder Woman number 18, Godwatch Part 2. Josh is our resident Amazonian expert. And I say that in the way that you understand the mythology of when you're reading it, you understand the mythology of the characters, who is what it means to this. But this Godwatch Part 2 is more about the past of Wonder Woman, on how some of Dr. Veronica Cale comes about, and her origin on being a Wonder Woman foe is one like of sympathy, I guess you want to call it. You feel sympathetic for the character.
Yeah, this is very different than the classic Veronica Cale, who was really just not a very nice woman at all. I mean, classic Veronica was very much Wonder Woman's Lex Luthor. Kind of bad through and through, was always going to hate Wonder Woman forever. This one, she's really forced into that role. I mean, her daughter Izzy has been not quite kidnapped, but had kind of her soul stolen from her. Her friend Ariana, who's sort of a techie, ends up getting killed trying to use the, what did they call it, the Cyberwalker?
Yes.
To invade Wonder Woman's mind. She ends up dying in that process. In this issue, Veronica brings her back as just a digital construct.
Yes.
And tells her, hey, I'm sorry, you're dead, but I needed you back. I mean, she's her only friend, really, in the entire universe. I mean, it sounds like Veronica Cale's kind of that person who doesn't make friends very easily.
No.
I can't imagine why. It's such a stellar personality. And in this issue, she reaches out to Dr. Barbara Minerva, who at this point is trying to figure out, okay, if the Greek gods are real, what other gods are real? And so Veronica Cale decides, hey, I'm going to fund all your research in the hopes that she's going to end up becoming the Cheetah, which of course she does. And the interesting part to read is Veronica Cale and Barbara Ann Minerva really hit it off.
Yes.
They're friendly, they're chummy. I mean, they kind of, they relate a little bit as being women who are trying to stick up for themselves. I mean, Veronica Cale's trying to do that. Barbara Ann Minerva's trying to do that, especially with her leg. A lot of people kind of look out for her when she doesn't need help. And in the end, after Barbara Ann Minerva, surprise, surprise, becomes the Cheetah, shock and awe, Veronica Cale's in bed holding Izzy, and she's weeping. I mean, she's lost her daughter at this point. She's lost her best friend, who's now a construct, and she just basically sent a woman who she really likes and knows pretty well, basically to this horrible end where she's just gonna keep murdering people.
Definitely. That was very poignant. Also, the fact that Wonder Woman had given Barbara Ann Minerva, when she went and visited her, saying, hey, if you need, I'll be able to find you anywhere in the world. She gave her pretty much a Superman's watch style. And Dr. Veronica said, okay, well, we got to make sure it doesn't work. So she had Adriana disable it.
Yeah, turning it into, as she called it, a very expensive paperweight.
Yes, exactly. And what's sad is, so Barbara Ann, now as Cheetah, she blames Wonder Woman for what happened to her, which I can't blame her, because Wonder Woman gave this to her, said, anywhere you go, I'll be anywhere. When Wonder Woman comes looking for dead bodies, sees the watch stopped, and she sees Cheetah, it's sad, really, the emotions there. Cheetah had just eaten a corpse, and blood's coming down. A really strong visual and saying, you missed my wedding.
Yeah.
It was...
Yeah. Well, and to see Wonder Woman whisper, Barbara, what happened? I mean, where she's really shocked to see that. Yeah, and at this point, they're not aware of that manipulation behind the scenes, and I doubt they're aware of that in the present either. And what's really interesting, too, is before Barbara Ann Minerva goes off on her expedition, Wonder Woman tries to talk her out of it.
Yes.
Wonder Woman's kind of seeing this partly as obsession on her part.
Yep.
You know, she wants to go find all the other gods. I mean, you could write that off as scientific curiosity. At the same time, Wonder Woman's also saying gods aren't to be trusted.
Yep.
You know, and she explains to her, you know, her patron gods, the ones that give her powers, they have her faith and they have her loyalty. They don't have her trust.
Yep.
And she also says, you know, if you look at mythology, people who reach out to the gods generally don't meet very happy ends.
That's very true.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting statement that she makes. It's a big change on how she feels to the gods.
Exactly. Speaking of gods, these demigods or whoever they are, Phobos and Deimos, they were telling a pretty poignant story to Izzy.
Yeah, it's a very interesting little thing that I didn't really pay that much attention to on my first read through. But the story they're telling her is there are two princes, and their dad has been imprisoned somewhere by his enemies. And their dad is imprisoned, and he's guarded by these, what they call wicked women, who were created to defend him. And then these princes want to go in, rescue him, basically get their birthright back, and then they get their powers to spread hatred and fear across the planet. And of course that you could take as just kind of a parable. But hatred and fear are what Phobos and Deimos do.
Yes.
Phobos is a god of fear, Deimos is a god of hatred. Their dad, we know, is Ares. So it makes you wonder, okay, there's a tree growing in Themyscira. We know there's the Seer group that we saw quite a few issues back. This terrorist organization uses a tree as their logo. Seer, as either Etta Candy or Barbara Minerva points out, is Ares, with the letters rearranged.
Yep.
Makes you wonder, could Ares be the tree in Themyscira? If he is, that means the Amazons would be created to protect him.
Right.
The only real confusing part is Wonder Woman met Ares pretty early on. I mean, he was trying to figure out, hey, where's Themyscira? I want to reach into your head. I want to go greet your Amazonian sisters, in his super creepy way of speaking.
Yep.
And so it makes you wonder, okay, could that not have been Ares? Is Ares the tree? Or is the tree something else? Is the tree, are this version of Phobos and Deimos not the sons of Ares, and they're the sons of somebody else who's stuck in the tree? Or maybe that Ares that Wonder Woman met isn't the complete Ares. He's only like an aspect of Ares, only a little small tiny fragment of Ares. I don't know. My head's starting to hurt just saying Ares this many times, but
there is a lot to the story that we're going on, and
Yeah.
it's still continuing the past and the present of the Wonder Woman. Every issue we get what's going on now, and then we get the backstory. And the format's been going for a whole year now. That's been really good.
Yeah, it's still a lot of questions we still haven't
Right.
answered. I mean, we still haven't gotten to that new origin for Wonder Woman. We still don't know what the tree is.
Right.
We still don't know how this is going to be resolved.
But it's a great read, and I had said before, I think this will still be, once they complete the story arcs, you collect them in the collected editions, the trade paperbacks, and you read them all together, and you'll be, wow, this is great. So we're kind of they'll be spoiled when they get to read everything at once. We're every other week on, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. There's another piece of that puzzle that keeps on going for what I feel is the definitive version of Wonder Woman that we're getting.
Yep, and I think it's also worth noting too, for doing this past and present thing, I thought that was going to drive me nuts a few issues in. I still can't get enough of that.
Right.
I mean, it ties together nicely. They don't spoil anything. By the next few issues, you kind of know what's going to expect, because they sort of overlay the plots really nicely.
Definitely. Wonder Woman continues to be one of the stellar titles in the DC Rebirth universe, and we'll see more past and present as the issues go on. Red Hood and the Outlaws #8. Continuing our Amazonian theme, now we find out a backstory of Artemis. And is this a little bit different than what was previously done with Artemis?
This is a little bit different. Yeah, it still keeps a lot of the same basic origin. So Artemis is an Amazon. She's not from Themyscira, which is Wonder Woman's homeland. She's from a place called Banamidal, which is somewhere, classic DC universe, it was somewhere in Egypt, somewhere around there. In this, it's still Middle East region.
Okay.
Who knows if it's Egypt or not, or some fictional country they made up. Essentially, the Amazons of Banamidal ended up leaving Themyscira because they had a, in this version, they had a falling out with Hippolyta.
Okay.
So they left, they established their own place. And classically, that was because they rejected the Greek gods. They didn't want to worship them anymore. For a while, all the Amazons had been enslaved by Hercules. The Greek gods said, hey, if you continue to worship us, we'll give you superpowers, and you won't be enslaved by anyone. The ones of Banamidal said, yeah, no thanks. They left. In this universe, Banamidal, it's a city in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's a kind of a forgotten city. Artemis and her friend Aquila are growing up to be kind of the protectors of this city. Artemis wants to be the protector, the Shimtar, which is their sort of highest protector. Aquila's a better fighter. She doesn't want to have anything to do with Banamidal. I mean, it's in ruins. It's a wreck. Nobody wants to protect it. It's not worth having a Shimtar. And yet, she ends up being essentially abducted by the gods. She just poofs away one day. Artemis finds her, basically, she gets thrown out of a portal, seemingly. She finds her, and Aquila is completely different.
Yep.
She's changed through and through. And of course, she ends up becoming the Shimtar. The one who doesn't want to be the Shimtar ends up being the Shimtar. Artemis decides, well, maybe I don't want to be in Banamidal anymore. And right at that point, Kurak, the forces from Kurak, which is the neighboring country, one of the few Middle Eastern countries in the DC universe, they decide we're going to invade. This is our land. We don't need you here. They invade. Aquila grabs the Bow of Ra, which we saw in the first few issues of Red Hood and the Outlaws, as a weapon that if you grab it, you're going to destroy the world.
Right.
You're going to cause an apocalypse. You're going to kill basically everybody because that's what it's meant for. She ends up killing basically everyone in Banamidal, everyone in the opposing army, and it's Artemis and Wonder Woman who have to team up in their first real meeting.
Not only the opposing army, but all the Amazons that she was supposed to protect.
Yeah, and of course, that's kind of the breaking point for Artemis.
Yes.
Is she and Wonder Woman, who's a gal Artemis is not super crazy about. I mean, she's not really a fan of her. She knows what Wonder Woman represents. She's from Themyscira, we're from Banamidal. We're different. We're not going to get along. And she has to team up with her against her best friend.
Yep.
So, of course, they end up killing Aquila, which I love in this comic. Jason Todd knows the ending of that. As she's telling him a story, he says, no, let me guess. You guys end up killing her.
Yep.
It's really funny, but that gives her that desire to find the Bow of Ra. Because that disappeared after their fight.
Yes.
They couldn't figure out where it went. Maybe there was a guy from Kurak who got it, or maybe one of the Amazons survived and got it. So that's why she's trying to find that, because the bow took away her best friend, it took away her homeland, and that's Artemis's story.
Yes. There's quite a bit to that story. I mean, there's a lot in that issue. You think this character has a lot of depth to her. And she has a lot of, she doesn't want that Bow of Ra to come out again, so that's why she's looking for it. There's a lot to her.
Yeah. It helps with this issue because I think out of the three guys on the Outlaws, you've got Red Hood, you've got Bizarro, and you've got Artemis. Artemis was the one who didn't click quite so much. Bizarro clicked more after we had his origin issue, last issue.
Yes.
We get that look that he's kind of the hero in the rough.
Yes.
He's trying to be a good guy. He knows how to do it. He doesn't necessarily act like it all the time.
Yep.
And with this issue, you get the same sense with Artemis. And classic Artemis was always really angry. This is kind of a different, more maybe a little more angsty. She's a little more sorrowful.
Yes.
She's a very, very different Artemis.
Yes.
But I still love the relationship between her and Jason Todd. And this is, you know, Jason in his little mental commentary he says, "Yeah, I'm the Red Hood. I'm the leader of the Outlaws. Don't tell Artemis that." It's this. He doesn't really want to challenge her at all in that hierarchy.
No, it was a great issue, just for standalone finding what makes Artemis tick. So we've kind of understand the whole Red Hood and the Outlaws. What do you think? What type of stories do you think we'll see in the future now?
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Are they going to deal more with kind of the local criminals like they dealt with Black Mask? I'm wondering, is the Boa Ra going to show up sooner rather than later? I mean, they've been talking about this since the first few issues in this series. I wouldn't be surprised if they find it pretty soon.
All right.
I'm curious to see where that ends up, because it looks like that kind of weapon that if you grab it, you go completely nuts.
Yeah.
The moment you touch it. So how did anybody touch it? How did they get it to wherever it is? Who has it?
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Red Hood and the Outlaws, I feel the first story arc, we've kind of concluded the first story arc. We now know the characters, what makes them tick, what their motivations are, and now it's on to new adventures with these characters as this motley crew of anti-heroes, heroes that are misunderstood, continue on into the DC universe. That's Red Hood and the Outlaws. Detective Comics number 952. Wow. You do not mess with Lady Shiva. Shiva, I remember when they did the Knight's End, Knight's Quest, and the Knight's End particularly when Bruce Wayne came back. There's only one person that he trusted. You know, he didn't trust her, but he trusted that she would be able to reforge that muscle memory, and that was Lady Shiva. I've never seen Shiva this venomous.
Yeah. This I don't want to say crazy, but I mean,
No,
this
she's
is a
more
really
focused,
this is diabolical.
Yeah,
I would say
that'd be a great word.
that's a good way to put it. Yeah, because Shiva's always been a really scary character, but I mean, for a long time in those comics, she was an assassin. I mean, she was out, kill one person, kind of gloat about it, then leave.
Yes.
You know, and we'd see her every now and then. This time, she's basically trying to invade Gotham City and to just wipe it off the map.
She would smear Batman all over the map. Let's talk about the very beginning, the very prologue, if you will. There's a meeting between Ra's al Ghul and Shiva in Paris?
Paris, yep.
Paris. And Ra's is kind of telling her, this has gone far enough, you need to stop. She says no, and she stands up to him saying, you sent children, your League of Assassins, to do your work, you're just children. Are you supposed to scare me? She doesn't scare easily. Ra's offers to tell Shiva where her daughter is. Shiva thinks about it for a second and says no. So then Raz's, probably some of his best men come to fight Lady Shiva.
Bear in mind, those are colony members. They're in colony outfits, which makes me wonder, is that the colony? Did Ra's al Ghul tip off the colony?
I didn't
her?
catch that the first time.
Yeah, because I kind of had to double take at that. You know, you see Ra's al Ghul and then you see colony guys come out like, whoa, wait, what? And bear in mind, too, when Ra's al Ghul is telling you you're too nuts to do this,
Yes.
you're too nuts to do this. Wow. Wow.
Ra's al Ghul is already on the edge. Shiva's off the edge.
Yeah, that's like the Red Skull telling you you're too racist to be to be with us.
Right.
That's a different level of crazy there. So, yeah, and it's worth noting too, and we've talked about this before, Lady Shiva's daughter is the orphan.
Yes.
Cassandra Cain, who's her daughter with David Cain, another super assassin essentially in the DC universe. Classically, I remember they hooked up mainly just to see if they could create a kid who would be a really good assassin. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
that's not going to turn out good for
Genetics.
her. But
Genetics.
Yeah, luckily Cassandra turned out better than that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't know. Let's hit on the League of Shadows. we don't think they're a splinter group of the League of Assassins, do we?
I don't know. It's hard to tell if this is going to be, just the way Batman phrased it before. When they first talked about this during the Colony story arc, was he said, "Oh, that's just a ploy by the League of Assassins. That's it's a bedtime story type thing. It's just to keep kids awake at night."
Mm-hmm.
This would seem to think maybe it's a rogue group of them. It's worth noting too, when Roz meets with Lady Shiva, she's reading The Rebel by Albert Camus. I can't think that's coincidence.
Right.
Like, that's a book called The Rebel. Is she trying to rebel against Ra's al Ghul? Is she trying to accomplish something that he hasn't been able to do, which would be kill Batman, get him off the board?
Yep.
That way would clear his way to world domination. Or is Shiva just gonna, maybe take out Batman first, take out Ra's al Ghul second? I don't know.
Couple points we definitely need to hit is Lady Shiva. She confronts Batman, and she's pretty much telling Batman, "You had your chance, you had your opportunity, you failed. I'm going to destroy Gotham. I'm going to take it away from you." When Batman tries to go after her, and she almost breaks his arm. I mean, she really shows a force, but she does it so nonchalantly, saying, "I could really kind of kill you if I wanted to." She tells her daughter that, "I just wanted to see how you are, and you're a disappointment. You had one opportunity. This was your one chance."
Yeah.
You all had one chance. The League of Shadows I think they're all fighting. It really mass confusion. They pin it on the Joker. The Bat team is grossly outnumbered. Even Clayface has to split apart, but it doesn't really work because that group takes Azrael and Batwing. There's just a lot going on in this issue, but the main thing is Lady Shiva had said, "You really don't know me. You think you do, but you know nothing of me. I've played parts."
Yeah, and that's kind of a reference to their previous meetings where Batman's beaten her or outmaneuvered her in previous meetings. She blows that off and says, "Hey, I've taken the fall when I needed to.
Yes.
This time that's not going to happen. This is Shiva kind of unchained."
Exactly.
And it's worth noting too. I mean, they also framed Batman for the murder of the mayor.
Yes.
So the cops are out after the Bat team, which Renee Montoya tells Batwoman about via phone call. Yeah. So it's kind of weird seeing Lady Shiva like this because she's never been a nice character. She's never been a nice person at all. But she's walked that line between good and evil. I mean, just like you mentioned, helping Bruce Wayne get rehabilitated during the Night Quest story arc. She did it. She wasn't particularly nice, but she's never really been a straight up villain.
Right.
And it almost makes me wonder, prior to this, did she have a trip in a Lazarus pit or something? Is she nuts coming out of this? Because that would make sense.
Yes. What do you think? And then at the very end, you see Orphan just literally crying, finding out how evil her mom is, diabolical, and her mom wants nothing to do with her because she thinks she's weak. That was a very poignant moment. It looks like really the Bat team is in a lot of distress in this issue, almost to the breaking point, a lot of stress. I don't know if it's going to take much more. They're going to have to lean on Colonel Kane. They're going to have to do something different because as it is right now, they're overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, and at that same time too, we see Batman comforting Cassandra at the end, so she does have that.
Yes.
Kind of the family figures in her life, even if she doesn't have her mom. And I still wonder, is she going to be able to reach out to her mom in this? I mean, is she going to, if anyone can get through to Lady Shiva to say, "Hey, don't do this," it's probably going to be Cassandra. Because she's definitely one of the major players in this story arc. And I'm still wondering, too, Batman said for the longest time, League of Shadows doesn't exist.
Well, now we know.
Nice going, Bats. It makes me wonder, too, was that a calculated move to get them to come out? I mean,
if it is, they're taking a lot of damage.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put anything past Batman, but they are taking a lot of damage for that.
Yeah, that would be a lot of collateral damage.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're going to see where Detective Comics, where the story arc continues in the weeks ahead. But right now, we're going to take our second break, and when we come back, it's reborn time with Superwoman and Superman in Action Comics number 975. We'll be back in just a moment.